Brian did not hesitate. He looked directly into her eyes, just as he always had. That had been one of the first things Julia noticed about him weeks ago. He did not dart his gaze away when she spoke. He did not shrink under her intensity. He met her there, steady, present. Now, standing on the rooftop of a worn brownstone in the overlooked part of the city, he leaned forward and complied with her request. This wasn't a peck. It wasn't a cautious test of boundaries. It wasn't the kind of kiss people exchange to confirm mutual interest before retreating into safety. It was decisive. It was grounded. It was the kind of kiss Julia had only ever heard described through her headphones at 6 a.m., walking on a treadmill before sunrise. She had a long list of audiobooks to choose from, self-development, legal strategy, and occasionally, when no one was around to hear, modern romance novels. Those stories always described masculine men, chivalrous to their cause, steady under pressure, capable of breaking through a woman's armor and capturing her soul with clarity and intent. She used to listen with mild skepticism. Real life wasn't like that, or so she thought. Brian just did that. It took one kiss. There was no rush in him, no frantic hunger. His hands found her waist with confidence, but not possession. His presence was calm, commanding without force. He did not overwhelm her. He grounded her. And in that grounding, something in Julia softened. She had built her life on structure, preparation, precision. Courtrooms were arenas where she wielded language like a weapon. She projected power because power was necessary. Her voice did not tremble. Her posture did not waver. Her arguments did not bend. Armor, carefully crafted over years. Brian broke through it, not by attacking it, but by standing firm in front of it. In that moment, he satisfied the first tenet of attraction, physical desire. When Julia first saw him, she had noticed he was attractive. Of course she had. She was observant by nature, but she had not been salivating at the mouth. She had not been overtaken by impulse. When he held the door open for her the first time she stepped into his vehicle, her mind had been elsewhere, on a case that required precision, on a witness whose testimony could tilt the scales of justice, on the projection of authority she needed to maintain. That did not mean she hadn't noticed him. Broad shoulders, steady posture, quiet eyes. Attraction had been present, it simply had not yet been ignited. Now it was. The second tenet had formed more subtly, trust and safety. Julia replayed it in her mind, even as the kiss deepened. That afternoon with her star witness, the conversation that did not go to plan, the frustration she carried when she stepped back into the car. She had not intended to show it, but he saw it anyway. He didn't sit in silence. He didn't withdraw. He engaged her. Light conversation, a slice of pizza offered casually, almost playfully. He had used the only tools he possessed, kindness, humor, presence, to shift her emotional state. A woman he had just met. He had not been indifferent. That mattered. It took the following day, riding with a different driver, for her to recognize the contrast, the silence, the detachment, the absence of attunement. She didn't just want someone to listen. She needed someone who would notice, someone who would care when her voice carried strain, someone who would lean in instead of pulling back. Trust and safety were not built through grand gestures. They were built in moments when vulnerability surfaced and was met with steadiness. Brian had done that instinctively. The third tenet was competence. On paper, they were not evenly matched. Julia's education dwarfed his. Her income could fund luxuries Brian never considered. She operated in high-profile legal circles. He calculated gas usage carefully, keeping his tank just past half full to ensure he could complete his workday without strain. But competence is not measured only in degrees or dollars. Brian demonstrated competence by enlightening her. He taught her something she did not know. Not in a condescending way, not to impress, but through story. He connected astronomy and human psychology in 60 seconds and left her thinking differently about both. If he could do that once, he could do it again. She could look to him for thought-provoking conversation, for insight, for humor at the right moment.
and he delivered it in a way that made her feel good.
That final detail mattered more than any resume line. He made her feel good. Not flattered, not manipulated. Good. Safe. Curious. Feminine. The importance of that cannot be overstated. Attraction, trust and safety. Competence. With those three tenets now satisfied, Brian did not have to search for an opportunity to make physical contact. It was requested. The kiss deepened naturally, unforced. When they finally separated, the city hummed softly below them. The air had grown cooler, the warmth of the evening replaced by a subtle chill creeping across the rooftop. Brian, now exuding a level of confidence entirely absent in the office lobby hours earlier, smiled slightly. "It's getting a little chilly out," he said. "Would you like to go inside?" This time, permission rested with her. "Yes," she replied. "It is a little chilly outside, and I would like to go inside." They descended the narrow stairwell, the rooftop hatch closing softly above them. Inside the studio, the small lamp cast a golden glow against the walls. What followed was not rushed. Time loosened its grip. Brian stepped fully into his masculine presence, decisive yet attentive. He did not hesitate. He did not ask for constant reassurance. He led, but with awareness. Julia, in turn, relaxed into her feminine energy in a way she had never allowed herself to. The courtroom required sharpness. This space allowed softness. Hours dissolved. Any frame of reference for time slipped quietly away. There were no clocks consulted, no phones checked. There was only presence. When morning finally approached, they were not surprised. The night had carried them forward without interruption. Eventually, reality returned in gentle reminders. Julia had work in a few hours. Trial preparation waited. Starbucks would need to double her order. They dressed in comfortable silence, an unspoken understanding flowing between them. When they stepped outside and approached Brian's Tacoma, the sky was shifting from indigo to pale gold. He drove her back through streets just beginning to stir with early commuters. He pulled to a stop in front of Julia's apartment building. "When will I see you again?" he asked. It was his biggest gamble of the evening, though technically it was morning now. Julia unbuckled her seatbelt slowly. Instead of answering immediately, she leaned over and kissed him again. Not as intensely as before, but deliberately. "You can see me whenever you want, Brian," she said softly. He searched her eyes. "You know I have the trial next week," she continued. "That's going to require laser focus. But from this moment forward, regardless of circumstance, I'll make myself available to you. No questions asked." There was a pause. Not awkward. Entangled. Their eyes locked once more in silent recognition of what had shifted between them. Brian broke it gently. "If you don't get going, you're going to be late for work," he said with a faint grin. "Enjoy the rest of your day, love." The word landed differently. Not Julia, not a nickname borrowed from habit. Love. She stepped out of the truck slowly, closing the door behind her. For the first time, he hadn't referred to her directly by name. The elevator doors slid shut, and she watched her reflection in the mirrored walls. She touched her lips absent-mindedly. The realization unfolded gradually, but unmistakably. For the first time in her adult life, she understood precisely what was happening to her. She was falling in love.